Mark Giangreco joining us on loan from ABC7 in Chicago. And great to have you, Mark. How are you?
Dan, how you doing, buddy? Long time.
Yeah, and I was thinking of you yesterday. I rewatched episodes 1 and 2, and I thought, you know what, Giangreco would be great to talk to because you're in a lot of shots. You were there through all of this, and I'm curious from a local perspective, what has stood out so far? Anything that you don't know through 4 episodes?
Well, no breaking news, but there are little vignettes where you forget, that it's not laid out chronologically, so you can't rely on a timeline. But there are all these little things like Michael playing golf with Danny Ainge before they took on the Celtics in the playoffs, or, that all-access crew was in the locker room for stuff that we were not privy to. So there were some very interesting things. And like you alluded to, Jerry Krause saying, I don't care if you go 82-0, Phil, you're not coming back. Little things like that. And, it's not just me, obviously. Every guy and woman who's ever covered the Bulls during that 98 season, they're going to get their face shot in there sometime during this documentary. I have a bet with some of my friends as to how many times the tip of my nose is going to appear in all those gang shots, But we were with them over in France for the McDonald's tournament, which was great. But again, when they won the trophy, Michael's going, this doesn't count. This is ridiculous. And they kind of just put the trophy up on the locker room shelf there, and they walked out. Like, stuff like that.
Could you feel the tension that year, Mark?
Oh, absolutely. No question. I mean, for that to all come out before they even started playing was just ridiculous. So, again, shown in the documentary, Michael's like, stop dogging me about this question. I told you 500 times, not coming back. If Phil doesn't come back, Phil's not coming back. So I'm not coming back. You're going to get the same answer. But, Dan, it's our job to just pound away. And we really can't appreciate this until now. It's taken 20-plus years to sit back and say, wow, that was really cool to be part of that, because when you're in it, it's like, oh, we got to get this interview. We can't get beat. We got to do this live shot. And I learned how to moonwalk backwards chasing Michael, Scotty, and Dennis up and down hallways in every arena in the country. So, you're just working and grinding it out and trying to keep up with him. And then, it takes years to sit back and go, hey, I guess that was pretty cool.
What isn't being told?
Well, here's the thing, and I thought Ken Burns made a valid point. Arguably the greatest documentary producer ever. I've been watching the Roosevelts and everything else. But look, this isn't on PBS. It's on ESPN. And just like Michael and every other walk of life, he controls the situation. His guys produced it. He handpicked everybody. He decides when it's going to be released. The whole story is told through him. And so some stuff may have hit the cutting room floor. Some stuff that maybe he didn't want in the documentary won't appear. And, the director, Jason Hare, he agreed. He's like, yeah, this isn't pure journalism. And I get what Ken Burns is saying, but, Dan, nobody cares. Everybody's obsessed with it. It's the only thing that's going on right now. The ratings are through the roof, so journalism be damned, I guess.
I also find it interesting and ironic that Ken Burns, I think, had 9 episodes of the Civil War. We have 10 episodes of Michael Jordan in the Bulls. Our priorities are in the right place. We need 10 hours to tell the story as opposed to 9 hours to tell the Civil War.
Oh, absolutely. But, this war lasted longer than the Civil War, I think. I mean, it was 10 years of intensity going through those 6 championships. And even, chasing Michael back and forth from the batting cage to the field when he was with the Sox in Sarasota in spring training. So, I had to do this thing with him. As he'd walk out of the batting cage and go to the field every single day, I'd walk with him and I'd say, Mike, you got to stop dogging me. Get off me. I'm working. Leave me alone. You had to just play with him because, he was mentally exhausted through it all.
We're talking to Mark Giangreco. He works for ABC7 in Chicago. How long have you been in Chicago?
I'm in my 39th year, man. It's unbelievable. 12 years with NBC and now 27 with ABC.
Who's bigger, the Bears of 85 or the 90 Bulls?
Oh, great question. I think this is still a Bears town. I think the aura of Ditka presides over everything. I mean, Michael and Iron Mike are the 2 most iconic figures in Chicago sports history. I would have to say still the Bears by a nose, my nose, although now everybody's immersed in the Bulls and they'll tell you, well, it's got to be the 6 championships. But I think overall, if you step back, it's still the Bears.
If you could have one question answered by Michael, honest, what would it be?
Tell me the truth about the whole gambling thing. Tell me the truth about why you retired and went to play baseball, you know? And I think in episode 7, that's going to be addressed. I'm not sure.
But it goes back to if Michael is controlling this and he gets the final word on everything, how much of like I don't think this is a total epiphany where he's going to go, now I can tell the truth. Is David Stern going to say anything? He's interviewed for this. David Stern, everybody has been adamant that, hey, Mike did this and he wanted to play baseball. And I thought, okay, at the peak of your career, you want to go play baseball. It just, did he get bored with the NBA? Like, how does you want to pay tribute to your dad? Like, we all had those questions at the time. And I was there for his retirement ceremony in Chicago where I go, how is this guy retiring? It just didn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense. That and the whole Isaiah Thomas and keeping him off the dream team.
Oh, I know. I mean, we're so jaded and cynical, and we have to think that he's not telling the entire story. And why would David Stern say anything now? You want to protect the shield, as they used to say about the NFL. You want to protect the NBA logo. You don't want to mess anything up now and have everybody say, oh, my God, you guys have been lying to us. We suspected this all along. It's just going to sit this way. And for Rod Thorne to say, I love Rod, for him to say that Michael never said a word about Isaiah when putting together the dream team, I mean, really? And I remember Chuck Gowdy, our investigative reporter, was out at practice one day and pressed Michael, is that how you prepare for a playoff game, gambling in Atlantic City? He goes, that's it. And remember, he implemented the media boycott. He didn't speak to us for months. And then finally, one day at practice, we're on the road. I forget where we were. He looks at me and kind of winks and goes, all right, come on, let's do it. Boom, 500 reporters dive on him. And but still, Michael's he's going to tell the story the way he wants to tell the story. But what I really enjoy is him cursing every 5 minutes, because we've heard him swear up and down in the locker room, in the hallway. But this is the first time on camera where he's dropping F-bombs, and I'm sure there's a prop bet on how many once they get through the 10 episodes.
I'm not sure if we'll ever have an athlete who will be this beloved in a team sport. I mean, he was feared, but he was beloved. And when he went to your arena, you showed up because you wanted him to be great. You wanted to see greatness. It wasn't one of those, unless you're a Pistons fan, you showed up and I think you wanted to be entertained by him and by that team. We got tired of the Golden State Warriors. That didn't take long for us to get tired of that. The Patriots were never embraced by America. The Spurs were never embraced. The Bulls, that was the amazing part of it, Mark, where people loved watching them, even if it meant to the detriment of your team.
No question, Dan. And, can you imagine load management implemented in the 90s? I mean, Michael showed up every single night, and he was aware that they all came to see him. He's not going to do a Kawhi Leonard and sit out a couple of games. Most of these people can't afford these tickets. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have Michael Jordan come in town and see him live. And every player was like that in the 90s. They punched you in the face if you tried to come in the lane, and they felt an obligation to play every night and perform and entertain. It's completely different now.
Feel free to not answer this, but did you ever hit the town with Dennis Rodman?
Let's say I was having dinner one night and he rolled in with some people, and this was maybe 10 years ago. Not while he was playing for the Bulls. I wouldn't go near him because, I'm a moth to flame. But the first thing he said to me was, are you still here? That's how he greeted me. And I said, yeah, man, but always wanted to. And I think he would have invited all of us to come out one night, but I think we were scared to death.
I went out with him one night at the Crowbar.
Uh-oh. Yeah. I've driven by there 10 times and decided, you know what, I'm just not going to do it because, Dan, I'm out of suspension. I got a couple of years left on my deal, and I can't afford to get suspended anymore. So,
yeah, we don't need to go down that road of all the times you've been suspended. But yeah, I went out with Dennis.
I'll tell you though, I'll tell you, we share the same birthday.
Yeah,
Dennis and Stevie Wonder and I, and we're kindred spirits in some really weird, twisted ways. And remember, the Bigsby and Carruthers men's store would advertise on the building along the Edens Expressway in downtown Chicago, and they would have Rodman's mural up there, his giant face painted. And he was changing his hair color every week, so they had giant pieces of plywood in different colors, and they would just change his hair every week. I wound up with one of those huge pieces of plywood in my garage, and I still have no idea how I got it. It was the pinkish chartreuse one. And the thing was gigantic. It's like 10 feet tall and about 15 feet wide. But I think I lost that in the divorce, too, so I don't know.
he was not a great interview, but he was a fascinating character. That Scotty wasn't a great interview, but there was a lot of drama surrounding Scotty. Michael could be a great interview, and then you had the other, underlings there. The Harp wasn't necessarily a great interview. Tony Kukoc. Phil could be at times, but by the way, we had Charles Barkley on, and Charles said that Jerry Reinsdorf has no blood on his hands. All the blood is on Jerry Krause, which I agree. It feels like this was all Jerry Krause I build it and I tear it down, and Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner, had nothing to do with this. Is that real?
Well, no, that's not real at all. But Jerry, wanted to be a hands-off owner. And so he kind of just let Krause do what he wanted to do, and he respected Krause as a scout, as a judge of talent, as a general manager, both in baseball and basketball. He said in the documentary, I didn't hire him to win any popularity contest. Jerry Krause rubbed everybody the wrong way. He was the little fat guy who wanted to be part of the cool group. And what really struck me was we saw this all the time, but it just really stung to see it again. Michael and Scotty just abusing Krause to his face, and it got so personal. It was like, Krause didn't like the media either, especially didn't like a particular group of us. And we're like, yeah, this guy was brutal, but it still stung to watch him be berated by Scotty and Michael like that. It's like, ooh, God. But I think Reinsdorf obviously does have some blood on his hands for all of it. You got to be kidding. It's just like Rocky Wirtz and the Blackhawks now. Rocky's a hands-off owner, but he finally took it upon himself to step in and blow that whole thing up. So Jerry Reinsdorf certainly is accountable as the owner.
Great to talk to you, Mark, and try not to get in trouble, all right?
I won't, Dan. And go Flyers, the year that could have been. Oh, my God.
I know. Mark Giangreco, sports director of ABC7 in Chicago. Really one of the great local sportscasters in history.